All right. What do you think? Do you see any movements in the community to implement deforestation monitoring or remote sensing capabilities or similar?
Yeah, and if I can, I'd like to dig into the specifics here because one of the challenges that we see for EUDR is that there are very high bars set for things like traceability. So many of the sustainability standards are responding by adapting and improving their systems. But the EUDR requires traceability to farm plot level. And you can imagine for a lot of the deforestation risk commodities like palm oil or soy, there are potentially hundreds of thousands of smallholders who are providing a significant portion of the supply base. Many of these smallholders have very small, 1 or 2 hectare plots of land, and to have traceability right down to the plot level is something that hasn't traditionally been part of supply chain traceability. It's usually been to the point of first collection, so the mill level or the processing unit. And so there's a lot of work by standards and certification, but also by companies themselves to try to figure out how to have a feasible traceability program that gets down to that farm level. And the reality is that, for example, in palm oil, Musim Mas, one of the biggest traders in the world, has already said that they're not going to sell smallholder production into the EU because it's just too difficult to trace down or to fulfill the requirements of EUDR. That's not necessarily a terrible thing because they'll potentially find other markets for smallholders. But the idea that EUDR is in fact disadvantaging those hundreds of thousands or potentially millions of smallholders across commodities is an unnecessary and not desirable outcome. The other piece that is challenging for sustainability systems and where they're working quite strongly is around the different models of certification. So currently the EUDR requires that products need to be segregated so that they can clearly show that this product came from an area that was not deforested or converted. Many of the certification programs use mass balance certification, which is basically saying, because the supply chain is so complex and there's a lot of mixing that happens, we can say that this volume of certified product is going into the supply chain and that volume is coming out, but we can't say that this specific product comes from that specific place. So it's a traceability system that allows for mixing in the supply chain and reflects the reality of how many of these commodity products work in reality. You can imagine palm oil, again, going into hundreds, if not thousands, of different end products. So the traceability system is very complex. Mass balance will not work in the EUDR right now or under EUDR. So the certification programs are looking at what's a viable alternative where, again, it would be incredibly costly and exclusionary to say everyone who's doing mass balance certification is not able to be included in the European market. So we're trying to find different solutions to that. And the time frame is very short, but I think that's one of the critical challenges that needs to be addressed.